a Georgia prosecutor has dropped the entire election interference case against President Trump and his allies relating to alleged actions taken after the 2020 election. Let's bring in CBS News Justice reporter Jake Rosen. Jake, thank you for your time today. What can you tell us about this?
Well, Mugo, we know that this case was handed off from Fani Willis, who brought this case initially, because she was removed from the case because of a romantic relationship she had with the lead prosecutor on it. This resulted in not just President Trump getting elected and him being immune to some parts of prosecution, really going on trial physically during his administration for the next 4 years, but at the same time, Mugo, what it did was allow the government to open up whether or not there would be another prosecutor to take this case. It was ordered by a judge a couple months ago. We covered it then, and a man named Peter Skandalakis took over. He was the head of a Georgia Prosecutors Association. He said he was willing to do it after he couldn't find anybody else to take on this case. And in a memo today that was reported on by our associates here at CBS News in Atlanta, they're saying, and according to this statement, Skandalakis, this new prosecutor, cites a lack of time and resources to take on this case, and also cites that President Trump, because he's currently sitting in the White House, could not actually be put on trial until at least 2029. He said, quote, "To serve the interests of justice and promote judicial finality, this case needed to be dropped." And we just got a statement from President Trump's legal team, and including the lead defense attorney in this case, I should say, Stephen Sadow, who said a fair and impartial prosecutor has put an end to this lawfare. We are also out waiting to hear a reaction from potentially Fani Willis, and we'll see what President Trump has to say himself over this holiday weekend as it approaches. But certainly quite a monumental time. This was the one active legal case against President Trump. His allies are still on trial in some other jurisdictions around the country. Specifically, Mugo, President Trump couldn't pardon himself if this had actually gone to trial because it's a state case. He couldn't pardon his allies. It's something that kind of was a live ball again for a couple of weeks and now has officially been put to bed. A judge will need to sign off on this. But given that the lead prosecutor is saying they need to drop the charges, certainly a monumental time for President Trump, as he's not going to face any further consequences. In Georgia, you'll remember that infamous phone call with the Georgia Secretary of State that was caught on a recording back in 2020, 2021, around the election, where he told Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger to find him the votes to overturn the election results in that state so he would win the Electoral College votes, which would have swung the whole election. That stemmed into this massive prosecution brought against many allies, and many of which, because it's been so long ago, have actually pled guilty to charges in this to avoid this prolonged legal battle. President Trump obviously didn't, and here we are today.
Yeah, sounds like a good Thanksgiving present for him there. Jake, we also understand there is an FBI inquiry into 6 Democratic lawmakers after they made a video urging service members not to follow illegal orders. What can you tell us about that?
Well, that's right. We know that the FBI has contacted the House and Senate Sergeant-at-Arms to potentially try and speak with these active members of Congress. Their 4 House members said that they were approached earlier this week in a statement. They said they stand by their decision to release this video. You can see them there saying that in their former capacity as military members, urging current military and intelligence community members to not follow any orders that they view or deem to be potentially illegal. President Trump has called this seditious conspiracy and has called for these people to be not just investigated, but in Senator Mark Kelly's case, to be potentially court-martialed for these congressmen. He's called for them to be potentially put on trial for death or treason, as you can see in the all-caps statement right there. What we do know, Mugo, in just a more concrete way, is that there are a lot of hurdles to potentially court-martial Mark Kelly, and that while this is, in President Trump's mind, some kind of seditious behavior, sedition involves violence. Sedition involves more than one people who are grouping together to potentially try and physically overthrow the United States government. This was simply just them speaking out on a social media video, but it's unclear what the FBI could potentially bring and refer to the Justice Department in terms of charges, but certainly to either embarrass these members or to draw attention to their comments and try to condemn them through using the FBI and the Department of Justice is certainly the first step of its kind that we've seen in this administration, as we've seen kind of the other Trump legal, the foes of President Trump and his administration either get investigated or be put on trial in the case of James Comey and Letitia James for speaking out against the president.
And in the meantime, what are lawmakers saying about this inquiry?
Well, we've heard from Senator Lisa Slotkin, who's one of those people who made this video. Here's what she had to say.
The president's reaction and the use of the FBI against us is exactly why we made the video. He believes in using the federal government against his perceived adversaries.
And the four congressmen who also said that they were contacted by the FBI also said they're going to continue to stand by the Constitution and continue their activities. Whether these lawmakers sit down potentially with the FBI is another question we don't quite have the answers to. And what the results of that, which they'll likely speak out about publicly, will be are yet to be determined as we head into the weekend.
Yes News Justice correspondent Scott MacFarlane for us today. Scott, thank you for your time. First off, can you remind us how this case came to be?
This case was charged in August 2023, the same time period in which the federal case was filed against then former President Trump by the special counsel Jack Smith, alleging something quite similar, that there was a conspiracy to overturn an election. But the local prosecutor who picked up this case a few days ago, because the previous prosecutor, Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis, was disqualified, the new local prosecutor determined that a dismissal is warranted and asked a judge to dismiss the case, and the judge promptly did so. What the local prosecutor is saying is that this matter was better handled by the feds, that he didn't see the evidence of a racketeering case at the local level, deferring all matters to the federal government, which dropped the case a year ago yesterday because Trump won the election and you can't prosecute a sitting U.S. president. So all of this ends a chapter, a pretty dramatic chapter, in American history. Just wasn't a very dramatic surprise that it came to be in Georgia.
Have we heard anything from the president or anyone in his administration about this move?
Yeah, an attorney who represented President Trump in this Georgia prosecution said this is a victory over a politically motivated prosecution. The Trump orbit has frequently called all the prosecutions of Trump politically motivated, including the one into his alleged mishandling of classified records, into his efforts to overturn the 2020 election, into his tethers into the U.S. Capitol insurrection, which was a component of the 2020 special counsel 2020 election case. They're making the same statement after this dismissal. But now all of these legal balls that were juggled in the air in August 2023, a time of grave legal peril for then former President Trump, all those balls have now fallen to the ground.
Yeah, and Scott, just I want to go back here, and for anyone watching this and hoping for some clarification, we know you cannot prosecute a sitting president. So what does this mean? Does this mean now that this case is dropped, can it come back once the president's term ends, or is this it?
Yeah, it's a really good question without a real satisfying answer. You get beyond statute of limitations on some of these matters. It becomes complicated to bring a case again, no matter the statute of limitations. There's also political considerations. Who's going to be the local prosecutor in certain places, or the federal prosecutors in 2029? Who wins the 2028 election? You can see all the complications, which make all of this feel more like fan fiction than reality. And before I run out of space and time, a happy Thanksgiving to you. A job very well done every day.
Oh, Scott MacFarlane, thank you so much. Happy Thanksgiving to you as well. We always appreciate having you on 24/7. Thank you.